everybody. Welcome to our little virtual event space. My name is Allie, and I am so excited to be introducing all of this whole herd of children's authors and illustrators today, here to discuss staying creative during COVID, and of course, new books and releases that we are so excited to talk about. Before we get into the fun stuff, I just want to say very quickly, thank you all so much for tuning in, and of course, for buying books. Your guys' support really is what keeps us going, and we really love what we do. So if you also love what we do, come on in, grab some copies. You know, if you are local, if you are not local, we do ship. Shipping is just $3.50 for the first book, and then $1 for every book on top of that. And you get to support USPS too, which is kind of an added bonus. I will be linking books in the chat all evening, so go ahead and just follow those links over to the website, and it'll all become clear once you get there. While you are over on the website, oh, first I should mention we do have signed book plates. So if you would like book plates signed, let us know when you're doing your ordering. You can do that either when you're ordering online, in the store, at the LFP location, or on the phone, depending on how you want to purchase. You know, y'all let y'all do you. But it's pretty easy, don't worry. And then while you are over on the website, definitely check out our other upcoming events. We have a very exciting roster coming up in the next couple of months. I mean, as usual, it's really exciting. I'm really looking forward to some of these events. So definitely check those out. Sign up for our newsletter. It's just one email a week. We're not going to spam you. And it'll keep you updated on all of the people coming through, blog posts that we're posting that we have a really good time with, and book clubs, which we've been doing online lately, and they've been really fun. So definitely go and check those out. If that's not for you, come follow our social media. We are at Third Place Books on any of the major social media platforms. We even have a TikTok lately, and we have a really good time with those. So definitely go see what we're doing. And then let's see, I think we are here for an hour. Oh, excuse me. Towards the end, we will definitely be taking questions. So if you have any questions, which I very much hope that you do, go ahead and leave those in the Q&A box down at the bottom or at the top of your screen. There is also a chat box, which we would love to see you guys blowing up. Say hi to each other, connect, you know, share thoughts and feelings, of course. But once it comes to questions, throw those in the Q&A just so that we can find them. It makes it a little bit easier for us to see them. And so I believe that this is all of the housekeeping that I have. So I think it's time to start getting into some of these wonderful presentations that we have in store. Let's start with Jingjing Song, who is the New York Times bestselling illustrator of A Bucket of Blessings. She is well known for her multi-layered textured illustrations in books like Trees, Before We Met, and Feathers in Hair, What Animals Wear. And she has been an absolute delight to cyberstalk today. So once you've looked at her books, definitely head over to her website. Especially, she has a book coming out soon. It's called If I Were a Tree, which I will link, of course, to pre-order. And then, you know, head over to her website, which I will also link, to go and check out some of her wonderful standalone pieces. So with that, I'm passing it off to you, Jingjing.
Thank you so much, Allie. That was such a nice introduction. I'm really excited to be here today with my colleagues, and thank you for joining us for staying creative and finding inspiration during COVID. I just want to shout out, we lost a great talent today. We lost Beverly Cleary, who wrote Ramona the Pest, and long live Ramona. I didn't know that Beverly Cleary got her master's at University of Washington. So, you know, she could have been a Skibby member at some point. So I just want to acknowledge her talent. So I'm going to get started. I'm going to share my screen. Ali. I'm sharing my screen. Okay, so I've illustrated over 20 picture books. And when we were in the early stages of self-isolation, I was in the last stages of finishing up my 21st book. Let's see. And this is my 21st book, If I Were a Tree. And it's by Andrea Zimmerman and published by Lee and Low. It comes out April 8th. I'm going to share my creative process that I used during this, and also talk about the philosophies that I follow to just keep on trying to stoke the creative energy that admittedly has been at an extreme low these past 2 months as we are all in pandemic exhaustion. I think of creativity as a practice, much like a musical practice. Part of every practice are warm-ups and technical exercises. And I've come to recognize that the more consistent my practice, the more flexible and fluid my creativity. Even though the day-to-day can feel like a struggle, if we're lucky, these moments build a foundation for opening up days where creativity flows. So I have some small steps that I follow. And the first rule is small steps, small goals. The day I received the manuscript for If I Were a Tree, I went out for a walk just to look at trees. I gathered leaves, watched how the trees moved with the wind and touched their trunks, noticed their bark. When I got home, I made crayon rubbings of the leaves. I actually didn't use any of these in the final art, but playing with the leaves helped tune me into the subtleties of the trees. So not every step leads to the goal, but every step is meaningful. And for me, 2020, there were days where, one step was actually huge. It was moving towards a vision, even if it was an unfocused vision. And I actually did this drawing at the beginning of 2020, before we even knew what was going on. I was already struggling. And my eyes are getting worse as I get older. So the second step is to observe. I really think it's important just to pay close attention and to give yourself the space and the silence to observe. And so one of my favorite parts of every book is deep diving into research. With social gatherings and events canceled, there was plenty of time. So I knew in my vision for the book that I didn't want to get too literal with representation of flora and fauna. But I started building a photo library just so I had patterns and textures in my head. So concurrently, I actually was also reading a lot about the National Park Service's initiative to make parks more welcoming and relevant to BIPOC communities. This was really touched me deeply because my parents took me to every national park, it feels like, on every summer vacation. So I was in my head thinking about ways to make characters that would reflect diversity and inclusion, even within one family. One of the things as a professional illustrator and designer for the past 30 years is sometimes I just forget to have fun. So one of my rules is just to play. And so, remember all those techniques that we used in grade school, like crayon rubbings, which I just showed you, and stencils and block printing and tempera paints. I do a lot of exploration in black and white because I end up collaging digitally and adding color there. So this exploration process is very relaxing for me. And then sometimes just to get in a more relaxed mode and get more playful, I'll just make things. So this is actually an example of the gift cards that are at Third Place Books. I use pochoir, which is a stencil technique, rubber stamps, and I really love the rough organic quality that I end up with. Because I spent so much time in the woods during the pandemic, I also got out Nick Netto's book, The Organic Artist, from the library. And I'm going to buy the book from Third Place Books. And so I was reading about materials that I can use that are in my backyard. So there were huckleberries that the birds and deer didn't want because they were on the side of the road. And then I cut some bamboo pens to try new marks. And just exploring these new techniques helped open my mind up in different ways. I think one of the most important things we can do is to share. I really was reminded of this 2 days ago when this group of colleagues got together and we just ended up talking naturally about our process. And I forgot how I feel supported and part of a community. And since I have been working been self-employed for so long, I'm so used to my pattern that I actually had to really break out of my comfort zone to find community. I just got sick of my own community, and I found through Zoom meetings with professional groups like Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, and some Twitter chats like Kid Lit Art, that I could be part of a conversation of things that were exciting to me. And I really appreciate those online interactions now. I wish I had reached out sooner because it's a good reminder that we are not alone. So this is a sketch that I did using the Huckleberry ink, but then as usual, I scanned it in and added the colors digitally. So another thing that I think is really important that it's hard for us to remind ourselves is to be open to the mystery and the joy of the process, because the rewards are the process itself. And sometimes we get caught up in trying to make something to sell or trying to make something for someone's opinion. But if you saw my reject pile, you would really believe me that most of my ideas actually never come to fruition. And so sometimes when I'm in the middle of a deadline and I'm complaining, it's like, oh, I just have to remember this is fun. Like I enjoy doing it, and that's why I'm doing it. And another important idea for me anyway is space for reflection. So giving yourself time and space to reflect. I have a really hard time with the idea of being busy all the time. I know in our society, we really reward people who are busy all the time. But for me, being busy all the time is actually really counterproductive to my creativity. I just need to take space to breathe and to let things digest. And then when you give yourself that space to think about all the ideas and all the books and all the music that you've been consuming to inspire yourself, that's when you can start to connect the dots. And so all these seemingly random things, they start to form patterns and new ideas. And there's like ingredients that have been brewing in your imagination, and they're just waiting for you to put your spin on it. And then my next tip is, when in doubt, draw circles. And I'm not kidding. My studio is full of circle drawings, and you can see that I carve circles too. This is the thing, is like, when you feel blocked, as soon as you start to make the physical movement of writing or drawing, you're like greasing the wheel, and something's going to happen. And if nothing happens, which I really doubt it, at least you'll have lots of really amazing circle drawings. And so some days that's all I do, is I go in circles. So every now and then in this struggle, and as we're exploring creativity, sometimes we have to check our course and kind of step back and look at where we're going. And we're constantly assessing like our purpose, our goals. But with that commitment to one step every day, sometimes the goal ends up being closer than we think it is. Sometimes the answer is right in front of us, but we had to do all the work to see it. So those are my basic little tips. And thanks for letting me share them and share a little bit of my newest book, If I Were a Tree. And I'm going to hand it back to Allie.
So thank you so much, Jingjing, for that wonderful presentation. That was so beautiful. So for everyone in the audience, we are doing a raffle as well, a number of raffles this evening. Jingjing is raffling an original piece of art in the form of a postcard, and the winner for that is Leslie Armstrong. So this so yay. Hopefully you are in the audience, but if not, no worries. We're connecting everyone, so this is all going to be worked out after the event. But I thought that you should all be here live, So our next presenter is Trudy Truitt. She has written more than 100 books for young readers, both fiction and nonfiction. Her middle grade fiction includes The Sister Solution, Stealing Popular, and The Secrets of a Lab Rat series. She's the author of all of the narratives for the Explorer Academy series, beginning with The Nebula Secret and most recently, The Tiger's Nest. Her expertise in kids nonfiction encompasses books on history, weather, wildlife, and earth science. So welcome, Trudy. I'm passing it off to you.
Thank you, Allie. I will be now sharing my screen.
Great.
And hopefully it will work.
Hopefully it will. Perfect. Looking good.
All right, there we go. I am the author of the Explorer Academy series from National Geographic, and I'm here tonight to chat about the fifth book in the series, The Tiger's Nest. And for those of you who have been following along, or if you don't know too much about the series, it began many years ago, no, 2 years ago, with the first book in the series called The Nebula Secret. And it's the story of 12-year-old Cruz who travels the world with other young explorers from around the globe. So the students travel, they learn about conservation, they go on exciting missions to save animals or uncover a lost civilization. And Cruz has a personal mission too. He's trying to recover pieces of a special formula that his mother left behind before she died in a mysterious accident in her lab, of course. And of course, now he's got to stay one step ahead of the villains who are also after that cipher as well. Now, the series for me, because I've been working on it for so long, it has been inspired by the real explorers of National Geographic. And they're really amazing people doing amazing things. And along the way, I've had the chance to meet with them, to talk with them, to read about them. And M. Jackson is one that truly inspired one of the books in the series. And I thought you might like to meet her too.
Okay, so when you're licking this, what you're licking is snow that fell hundreds of years ago. My name is M. Jackson, and I'm a National Geographic explorer. I study glaciers. One of the best parts of my job is exploring ice caves. Come on in. A little drippy, a little spooky, glowing with reflected light. These tunnels can be dangerous. If you've read the book Explorer Academy, The Falcon's Feather, you know main character Cruz had a mission in one of these that didn't go exactly as planned. Frozen caves are fascinating, but boy, I hate being wet and cold. First thing I gotta do is put on another set of socks. I really have to bundle up. That's a lot of layers. These animals come pre-dressed for the frigid climate. For them, fur and blubber does the trick. They love the ice just like I do. You are welcome to come closer if you need a snuggle. Must resist the urge to hug wild animals. But the penguins are just so cute. Hiking in Iceland. You guys following me? You know, when I was growing up, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I wasn't much of a student. I didn't love reading or math. Science was always interesting to me, but I didn't know that could be a career path. I never met another scientist, let alone a lady scientist, but I did know that I liked glaciers. I loved them. I felt passionate about them. Eventually, I met some National Geographic explorers who opened up doors for me. Now, I have the job of my dreams, traveling the world and researching ice. The rate of melting has never been so high. I'm determined to spread the word about this. Many animals depend on glaciers as their habitat, but humans need them too. They store around 75% of the world's fresh water. If the Antarctic ice sheet were to melt, many coastal cities around the world could be lost as the sea rises. Large additions of fresh water would also change the ocean ecosystem. Some organisms, like many types of coral, depend on salt water for survival and may not be able to adapt. The good news is we can work together to save glaciers. The more we know about ice, the more we can get on board saving it. And that's what encourages me, because I think we can change the outcome.
And that's really my goal with the Explore Academy series, is to explain to kids and show them that they can have a career in science, that, and even if they don't want a career in science, that they have the opportunity to participate, that this planet is theirs, that they have a voice, and that their voice makes a difference. So there are 5 books in the Explore Academy series so far, with 2 more to come. But I was writing the last 2 books during the pandemic, and my productivity definitely suffered. And I think most creators found it really difficult to meet some of their deadlines. I seem to slow down a lot. And I think for me, it's easy for creativity to get pushed aside when there are other things that kind of creep in, like a pandemic. So I had to figure out other ways to get around it. And I realized that spending so much time at home, that there were some lessons that certain little creatures around me could teach, mainly my cats. So over the last year, I've sort of come to realize that my cats had a little bit more to teach me, and they showed me kind of how to keep my creative spirit alive. The owner of the tongue there is NEBULA, and she is my youngest cat. And you know, I'm told that having their tongue out means that they're supposed to be relaxed, but I think I just served her dinner and I'm pretty sure she didn't like what I served that evening. So what have the cats taught me? So this is NEBULA. She's my explorer. She loves to climb as high as she can, and she takes small steps to reach her goal. And I think she was taking lessons from Jing Jing. She finds the easiest route she can, and then she gets there. She goes from the counter to the microwave to the fridge, and the fridge to the cabinets. Emmy taught me not to be afraid to dream big, but if I was going to get there, I need to set small, reasonable goals for my writing. And that's Pippin meowing behind me here. He's hunting something. Emmy also takes big leaps of faith. And of course, sometimes she gets stuck behind the refrigerator or the washing machine. But even though she fails, she keeps right on trying again. And for me, I've never written anything quite like Explore Academy. It was a little scary, but it was a leap that I knew that I had to take. I think we all need to be challenged. We all need to do the things that scare us the most. And Pippin, he's the one howling behind me. He's hunting one of his mice, I think. And Pippin taught me to see things from a new perspective. So Pip loves it when my husband sets up the Hot Wheels track, but he doesn't just chase the cars down the track. He goes under the track and attacks the cars in his own unique way. In this picture too, he's also sitting in his squashed cactus. And Pip goes around and squashes all the cat beds in the house. He squishes them. He's between the squished whale and the squished squash, the squished pumpkin there. And he's taught me to, look at things from a new perspective, do things in a new way. And so, I thought about that in my own writing, and I started to do some different things. I, maybe switched my point of view or changed the narrator. And in Explore Academy, I actually wrote many of the chapters from the villain's point of view, something I might not have tried before. And this is Misty. Misty is asleep behind me here on the couch. I call Misty our news reporter because every time I aim at the camera at the cats, Misty will turn around and give me that look that says, "You've got to be kidding me." There is pure honesty in everything that she does. She's also a real big talker, and we have long conversations about her problems. And she'll often tell me what the other cats are up to. Like she's telling me in the other picture there that, you know, Woody's on the table. He's really not supposed to be there. So, and Misty, what she really taught me was that expressing my true self is really important. It's what readers need and what they deserve. Honesty can be tough though. But when I'm genuine in my writing, feelings will pour out of me that I didn't even know I have. And honestly, if I am honest, that's when I do my best work. And this is Woody, finally. So we're pretty sure Woody is part dog. We call him our golden retriever. And as you can see, he's a pretty chill guy. Woody loves and trusts everyone, which really surprises me given the rough start he had in life. He was born in a woodpile in Eastern Washington, and a dog scared his mom and sisters away, and Woody got left behind. Fortunately, a really kind-hearted veterinarian found him. He was only about a month old, and ultimately we got to adopt him. So Woody's taught me that breaks are important. I have a tendency to like push and push and push and push and never take a break. Woody showed me I gotta, give my mind a chance to recharge and reboot. And so I've learned I don't work on the weekends unless I absolutely have to. And of course, when life gets me down, a snack and a good nap usually are the cure-all for that. So here in a nutshell is what Team Shenanigans have taught me. Be different and look for a new perspective like Pippin. Go big, but set small goals like Emmy. Express your true heart like Misty. And of course, be kind to yourself like Woody. And there is one last little tip I have. Find something that lifts your spirits. I think this really helped me day to day, just little something that brought me a little joy or laughter or smile throughout the day. Doesn't have to be anything big. And several years ago, I started a Facebook page for the cats, and I called it, I named it after Pippin J Shenanigans. And every day I post at least one picture. Every couple of weeks, I will do a small story. It started out as a writing prompt for me. It's something to give me a laugh. I love the comments that people make, and they share their pictures too. And one little laugh can really make all the difference in my day. So coming next is the 6th book in the Explorer Academy series, The Dragon's Blood, will be out in October. I'm really looking forward to that. And if you have young readers and you'd like to check out exploreracademy.com, there are great resources there. Teachers guides, readers guides, more videos like M's, puzzles, games, code breaking activities, and excerpts from all the books. And before I go, I thought I would leave you with one last cat zen picture. Here is Emmy and Pippin in the Squish Squash. And I will send it back to you, Allie.
Thank you for the cats.
Yeah, and Pippin is howling back here. He's like, he's hunting his mouse. He's actually brought his mouse in. We play fetch with the mouse. I'm required to throw it, and he brings it back. And he's a little upset because it's like, we're cutting right into fetch time. So
soon, Pippin, soon.
Yeah, hang in there, buddy. Yeah.
So Trudy is raffling an Explorer Academy prize pack, including a signed code-breaking activity book. Oh, there it is. Wonderful. And signed bookmark, an Explorer Academy tote bag, an Explorer Academy pin, and the Caesar cipher cutout. And the winner of that is, drum roll that you're going to have to imagine, Lisa Owens. So you will be getting an email soon, Lisa. Hopefully you are in there. All righty. So thank you so much once again, Trudy. Our next presenter is Barbara Davis Piles, a former psychologist and current author of Grizzly Boy and Stubby the Fearless Squid, and most recently, Cliff the Failed Troll, in which Cliff flunks out of troll school and decides to give pirate school a shot instead. She has written hundreds of fiction and nonfiction pieces for the children's education market, as well as poems and a pipe organ demonstrator for children. So take it away, Barbara.
Thank you, Allie. Yes, my latest book is Cliff the Failed Troll, which is basically a riff about failure and not fitting in. It features a wiggly troll who can't sit still like regular trolls. And as we in the Northwest know, the Fremont troll, for example, has managed not to move for about 30 years. So most trolls can really sit still. So if you're a wiggly person or you know one, if you've ever failed or felt like you didn't fit in, If you tend to befriend slugs, or you just be liking pirates, you might like that book. Okay, so when the lockdown occurred, of course, it was scary and chaotic. For me personally, my son came home from college to finish his final semester. My husband started working from home. And in my self-proclaimed job as family cheerleader, I posted this onto the refrigerator by the great coach John Wooden. Don't let what you cannot do interfere with what you can do. And that became my mantra. Because in my opinion, the most important thing you can do in any situation to stay creative, particularly if you create for children, is to guard your joy. So my first strategy in doing this was to start managing expectations right away. I'm a bit of a data nerd, so I looked up information about the Spanish flu and about SARS, and I told my family, I said, hey, I think we're into 18 months or 2 years on this thing, not 2 weeks. And the reason I did that is because we have a daughter who is basically stuck at school in England. And I didn't want panic. Panic is never helpful. And I also didn't want that constant drip of disappointment. So we kind of were prepared that she wouldn't be home for my son's graduation and she wouldn't be home for Christmas. And then I set about doing what most of us did, the hyper cleaning, the 2 weeks to fatten the curve and start the spread. And let me just say, I felt a bit lucky in many ways, because first of all, I am very introverted. So staying home was not a problem for me. And then I burned up most of my 20s getting a PhD in clinical psychology. So I had some tools, I guess, to work with. In fact, I already have some actions in place in my life to help fend off a pandemic's favorite sidekicks, anxiety and depression. Anxiety and depression love to make you believe that you are not creative. This is a lie, people. You were born to be creative. And so to deal with these two, one thing I do is I exercise every day, and that gives me energy. It fuels my creativity that way. And if you're locked down and stuck in a small place, just like with everything else, always turn to the experts. And so these are some great options for that. My daughter, who has experienced varying degrees of very harsh lockdown in England in a small dorm room at Cambridge, she swears by convict conditioning. And it's also an app that you can find. The other thing I do is I keep a pretty consistent schedule. I get up very early and have most of my creative work done by noon. And I kept that schedule, even though everything else was just locking down and it was all weird. Over the years, I've written a lot of fiction and nonfiction for educational companies with some seriously wicked deadlines. And as a result, I tend to agree with Seth Godin that creativity is an action, not a feeling. So I make sure I write a little bit every weekday. And if I'm not working on a specific project, I will do free writing, like Natalie Goldberg suggests, or use the Artist Way morning pages. And I found that one of the benefits of a regularly scheduled session is that the muse knows where and when to find me. And sometimes she'll show up. So my writing schedule is sessioned and it's also timed. I always set a minimum amount of time for how long I'm going to write. And my minimum is 15 minutes. And that's part of being kind to yourself, because if you're going to create, you got to be nice to yourself. And 15 minutes, once that timer dings, that is a successful day. Now, sure, I'm going to write for a lot longer most of the time, but the ding is like, I've done it. I give my creative self a cookie, because what I'm going for is consistency. But then with no new input coming in, I hit kind of a creative wall, because as an introvert, I was loving life, but I didn't realize that all those little random things and events actually fueled my creativity. There was like no new stuff coming in. So without that, I found that I had to do something different. I had to actually impose, I think Trudy said, impose days off, because I'm pretty rigid and scheduled, and that works for me, but it wasn't working so well. And then I needed something else too, something interesting. So what I thought was, okay, what can I do that would actually make me better in some way when this is over? What skill could I get? How could I challenge myself? And if you know me, you'll know the one thing I don't do is illustrate. Illustration terrifies me. And so I have so much respect for the illustrators on this panel. I don't know why, that really scares me. I love to draw, but I'm an artistic chicken. But I thought, what the heck? That would be a big challenge to try to illustrate something. So how does an artistic chicken challenge herself? By drawing chickens, obviously. And so I did a pandemic poultry series. I drew chickens all summer long. Another way that I got some more input for myself was taking free online classes through Skillshare and Coursera, just different things to really shake things up. In fact, I even took a data science class that nearly killed me. But in times of chaos, math has all the answers. And I've actually found that a page of algebra calms me down, which is weird, I know, sorry. But so you never know what's gonna work for you until you try it. And if you wanna shake things up a bit, these are some of the places you can find those free online classes: Khan Academy, Open Culture, Skillshare, obviously, and Allison. Now, more recently, I am trying to up that illustration game again by going digital, and that's another big scary thing. But you know, it's kind of fun and more forgiving than paper, and I am pretty sure that I have the world record for how many times you can press undo. And so I really like that button. Anyway, I don't know what will become of my challenge, whether I'll ever actually illustrate one of my books, but having that goal really helped me through the year. And fortunately, it did seem to work as far as fueling my writing. In the fall, I managed to create a new manuscript that I'm just starting to shop around. I've got to start on a second one, and I'm revising some older pieces. So it seemed to work. And to sum it up, this is kind of what I did. So set up workouts, a challenge, a schedule, a timer, and it worked for me. And I really hope it will work for you.
Thank you. Yes, I like the silent applause that I'm getting over here. So thank you so much for that. I'm so inspired by your art. Those are so wonderful. I gasped audibly at the chickens because very clever. So Barbara is raffling a knot tying kit for Not Know How, a different sort of pirate bandana, and a small piece of pandemic poultry art. And the winner of that raffle is Melissa Snyder. And again, we will connect with you all after with emails, etc. So thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. Next, we have Catherine Thurman, a writer and fine artist. Her first picture book, A Garden for Pig, was featured on Smithsonian's website as one of the top 10 children's books about food. Her newest book, The Biggest Thing of All, is about love and grief, and just the description made me cry. But I mean, I always cry at kids' books, so cry in a good way. So I cannot wait until the book is actually in the store. It came out last week, but I believe it's currently trapped in customs. Is that true?
Something like
It sounds like it's a journey, but it will be here soon, and I'll link the pre-order button over there, and we will call everyone as soon as it gets in. So thank you so much for joining us, and take it away.
Thanks, Allie. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. So I have a disclaimer. My story is a little sad, but it was inspired by probably the single most stressful thing in my life, and which was the loss of my mom. So good things do come from stressful times, but I want to, I think, share the concept, how it came about, a little bit of the journey, and then my tips for staying creative. So my book is published by Welbeck Kids, illustrated by Romina Galata, who I can't say enough great things about her. She did such a beautiful job. So I'll tell you where it all started. One day while shopping in a superstore, I had a big idea that mysteriously came to me from nowhere. I was checking out when it hit me. Everything is a part of something bigger. I instantly imagined birds flying over my head, and the sentence came to me almost in a whisper. One bird is part of a flock. I knew this idea was profound and important, and I didn't want to forget it. So I frantically searched for pen and paper. All I had was a receipt. So this is probably my first tip, is to carry a pad of paper with you, because I think inspiration never comes when you're sitting at your desk. So I started writing, and like Jingjing, her art kind of relaxes her. I like to write just to relax. And so I started writing and living with my new fictional family. They were perfect. I had a grandma, a grandpa, a little girl named Lily. Together, they would discover things in the garden that were all a part of something bigger. For a while, it was happy. My fictional family had no problems, no worries at all. But then, out of the blue, my grandma character got sick. Why in the world was I writing this? I honestly didn't know. Now Lily was worried, and it was the kind of worry I knew all too well as a kid. You see, as a kid, my mom was often sick, and I worried about her a lot. She'd go to the hospital, and I would worry she wouldn't come home. I worried she would die. It was a dark, ominous cloud that hung over my childhood. And without knowing it, I'd given poor Lily the same problem. But surely I could control my own story, right? I mean, nothing bad was going to happen here. So in the early version, Grandma went to the hospital, but I brought her home and she was okay. Then one day I decided to share my story with an agent. This was when we first met. Within seconds, she said that my story was about loss. She gently suggested that maybe Grandma shouldn't come home. I almost started crying. Oh no, I thought, Grandma is going to die. As I revised my story, I remembered what a lonely place grief can be. When my mom died way too soon, it was one of the hardest things I'd ever been through. Sadness, anger, guilt. Now these miserable feelings I disliked so much had slipped into my story. I was on a runaway grief story train with no good ending in sight. I thought about my mom a lot during this time. That's when I remembered in the days following her death, something mysterious happened. I'd be standing in the pantry digging around for a snack, and all of a sudden I could feel her love all around me. It was so real, as if she was standing there with me. It was in my heart, in my head. She was like right next to me. I had dreams about her too, where she would always tell me, I love you and I'm okay. In the dreams, it felt like she was alive still. I would tell people about this, and of course they would look at me like I was strange. It was years later when I became a hospice volunteer. And for young people out there, that's a person who sits with someone who's dying and with their families. That I learned that my experience was actually not that uncommon. I heard a lot of stories similar to mine. Family members would mention feeling their loved ones around them after they passed, having profound dreams. They also talked about seeing birds and butterflies. Believe it or not, this is really common. It's a common sign. All of these are all over the world. Some of them have even felt their loved one's touch. They've smelled their fragrance. A radio comes on, they hear their loved one's favorite song. I say this so that if you're someone who's experienced something like this, you're not crazy. And in fact, there's now researchers who are studying these kinds of experiences. That's how common they are. So as I worked on the ending of my story, I thought about this. Could a person's love be so big that it exists after they pass away? I concluded yes. But there were still a lot of revisions to come. And this is where I have to say my next tip is that you're never going to do things perfect the first time. And it's okay to make mistakes. And what feels like failure, it's just part of the process. So I had to address Lily's feelings. She had a lot of them, and so did Grandpa. It's hard when you have your own sadness, but yet you see the sadness in others, which was the case with Lily. It comes and goes without warning. Holidays, birthdays, and so many other random events will trigger the grief all over again. When I had my first child, I grieved for my mom. That was the last thing I expected. Grief is a lifelong process. So here is just an example for young people out there who want to be a writer. Here's even more changes I had to make. And this was after the manuscript sold, and this is common. And even like Oliver the cat had editorial suggestions. And Romina was doing her revising at the same time. Another fun thing that came about, and often when I revise or when I write, you're constantly adding new things, but I suddenly found this hedgehog family in my mind. And I told the editor, I have to have this whole family of hedgehogs. And I didn't know I was going into a negotiation. She politely wrote back and said, Catherine, I'll give you one hedgehog, one. And I was delighted. So how does anyone stay creative during times like this when it can be really stressful? I think first off, I just want to validate anybody out there who's trying to be creative to let you know wherever you are in the world, your voice and your viewpoint are important. They're worthwhile. They're worth investing in. And in fact, I had my dad in a dream like 2 weeks ago, and he said that. He said, I'm so excited what you're doing creativity wise. I know we don't always hear this, but no matter what your economic status is, your culture, your race, whatever, it's so valuable. It makes you unique and it's worthwhile. So I'm lucky to have 2 great critique groups. And one of the things I've noticed, this is probably my number one tip for being creative. Okay, you hear people say self-care, and you think taking a walk, doing this, taking a bubble bath, and all this stuff. But what I think really makes space for creativity is sharing feelings. And I've noticed in both groups who are really prolific illustrators and writers that we've been sharing a lot of feelings. And then on the flip side of that, we've been also learning to listen to one another. And it's amazing. If you can learn to listen to someone, you can become their hero. You don't have to know what to say. I learned this in doing hospice. You can just say, wow, that sounds hard. But giving someone a space to put their feelings and just letting them know, I see you, I see what you're going through. They heal, and it's, they just lighten up. It's amazing. Like somebody else suggested, setting a regular time, that is really great and helpful. I get up super early in the morning, and before my inner critic wakes up, at least sometimes I beat her to the computer, sometimes not. And then, like I said, making mistakes, you know, Brene Brown, I mean, she did research on this, and she says vulnerability is the birthplace of innovation. And what vulnerability means is that you're doing something without knowing what the outcome is going to be. It's scary, like none of us know. And I think as a creator, you're used to this space, but still when you get hard feedback, I mean, it still can be hard. It still can be painful, but I don't think anybody creates anything without failing. It's just part of the process. The wound is where the light enters you. That's my last quote from Rumi, the Sufi poet. And I don't think my story would have existed if I hadn't lost my mom. So in conclusion, I just, if there are young families out there and kids who are grieving, I just want to say my heart goes out to you, and you are not alone. Childhood grief is really common, and it's probably widespread right now. If you look up, there's grief camps and great resources online now. So with that, and I hope everybody enjoy that and can stay creative. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That was so beautiful. Oh, excuse me, everyone, go and follow the links in the chat to pre-order and get your hands on this beautiful, beautiful book. Thanks, Dana. So Catherine is raffling a kids gardening kit. This includes seeds, tools, and wild finch bird feeder. And the winner of that is Shannon Wolger. So we will we will contact you soon. And then finally, last but not least, we have Dana J. Sullivan here to talk. He's the author and illustrator of many, many kids' books, including the Our Family Farm series, and most recently, the Dead Max comics, which is about a 7th grader navigating middle school with the help of his deceased dog, Max. He has also designed logos, illustrated Bob books, and teaches picture book and graphic novel classes for teens and adults. And while I was internet stalking him earlier, I discovered we have the same favorite color, which is dog. So off to you, Dana.
Thank you very much. Big shout out to Allie. Love Allie. And Third Place Books, thank you so much for hosting us. And for Catherine for putting this together. She put a thing out on Facebook saying, hey, who wants to do this? And she says, I'll only take 4 of you, so get on with it. So anyway, thank you, Catherine, for that. And I also want to join her in, grief is just a part of our lives. And right now, we're all grieving in a way. And my book, and some good things can come out of it. I had a dog named Max. Anybody who knows me knows I had a dog named Max, and I've drawn him over and over and over. And when he died, I was very sad, but I've made a funny book about him. And so that's one place you can take your grief, is to make your stories and let your stories be known. It helps if other people get to hear your stories, because it's great to do it for yourself, but man, the more you let people know your deepest secrets, the more you know everybody has those deep secrets. So I'm going to share my screen now, Allie, and let you see if it works. So my 5 tips for staying creative, because I'm not a math guy, but I can count to 5. So here's my motivation. So Duke Ellington once said, I don't need time. What I need is a deadline. And my God, this guy's like, get out of my head. This is me for sure. What gets me creative is a deadline. And I was lucky enough for about 2 years to have, and luckily they were COVID years, to have a deadline, a lot of deadlines actually, with my Dead Max comics books. There are 4 of them. The Dead Max 1, The Deadening came out. The Rocking Dead, Bully for You is coming out shortly. And the final one, Furball of the Apocalypse, is coming out in August. So kept me quite busy, quite sort of head down. And like Barbara, I thought, what pandemic? What do you mean? I'm not going out anyway. Everything's fine. What? So, and I had plenty of deadlines to work on, plenty of reason to be creative, actually not as creative as more of a mechanic at that point, but really going for it. And just to let you know, Dead Max is about a boy who looks a lot like me. He's a 7th grader. He's got a dog he loves, Max. Max is helping him through his life because his home life isn't great. His mom's a drinker. His dad has gone and is not answering his emails. So he takes, pretty early in the book, he takes Max out for a walk. Max gets off the leash, chasing a cat, and bam, gets hit by, or thump, gets hit by a car. So, you know, full disclosure, folks, it's called Dead Max Comics. And this happens right off the bat. But after the cremation, Max comes back as a ghost. Ta-dog! And Derek says, well, what are you here for? And he says, well, I'm here to help you out. You know, all the things that when we were in middle school, or junior high, as they call it, when I was there, we wish we had a dead dog to negotiate our fear of girls and crushes, fear of bullies in all forms, but mostly fear of our own talent and telling our own stories and being our true self. Derek's a pretty good artist, but he won't submit his work to the school newspaper because his excuse is they already have an artist. And I was thinking about this when Jing Jing was showing her work, saying, man, you already have an artist. I can't go on now. But we all have our stories to tell, no matter, and they're all different. So, but you have to read the book to find that out. So anyway, and I just found out recently that Dead Max is one of 3. It's up against 2 other really great books for a gold medal for the Benjamin Franklin Awards for the Independent Book Publishers Association. So woohoo! We'll find out in May where I am on that. So yay, Max, go Max! Fingers and paws crossed, everybody, please. But when that was done, I turned in all my art for all 4 books. I was feeling a little less smug, and I thought, well, now what? Now what do I do? And I was really literally sitting around the house going, well, and yelling at yourself or having your dead dog yell at you to be creative just doesn't do it. I mean, if they're giving you money, maybe, but they're not. So wasn't much creativity there. So tip 2, reluctantly accept a deadline. So what that means is jump into whatever is presented to you. Just go for it. Why not? And I was on a Zoom happy hour with a bunch of book people, and I believe it was actually Jing Jing who said, hey, let's make postcards and send them each other. And I'm thinking, what? That sounds like too much work. Oh, come on, Jing Jing, shut up. And then I got the first one in the mail. I thought, well, now I have to do it because everybody's expecting it. And boy, you saw this coming, right? I really started having fun. I was completely non-digital. I was just working with my little Sharpie and my watercolors, and I started having fun making a postcard. And the postcard, because it didn't matter, and you've heard this already, when things don't matter and you have fun, things happen. And so I came up with Ninja Kitty because Happy New Year, because my local librarian has a cat named Ninja. And I thought, well, wouldn't that be cool to have a ninja librarian cat? And so I sent that off, but then I started thinking about it. And I thought, maybe I can come up with a graphic novel, an early reader graphic novel for Ninja Kitty, the library pet with catitude. And I did about 9 pages of it and sent it off to my agent. And my agent, Anna O, if you're watching, you know I love you, but she just didn't like it. 2 paws down. So let's move on. Tip 3, force yourself into a deadline and pretend you're creative. Sometimes it's really great when you're the guy or the girl who needs to be creative and people are expecting it of you. So when I go to school visits, either in person or online, I will do a doodle session where I make a doodle, or I have a kid make a doodle, and then I have to make a picture out of that doodle. And I sometimes wonder why I do that to myself, because I always really do pit out. It terrifies me. You're in front of a bunch of kids and they will say stuff like, God, I can draw better than you. And I want to say, well, you draw, but I'm not allowed to. So I take that doodle and I make a picture out of it. And it's right there, flash. And it's amazing how creative you can be when you just absolutely have to be, or you're going to die. So I recommend that, and we're going to try it a little later. So tip 4, join a deadline group. We've already heard about a critique group, and I belong to 2. And I thank them both the critiquers have been so helpful for Dead Max. I got to tell you. But not only do they help you with your work and support you, they keep you to deadlines, to your promises. You tell somebody, I'm going to have this by next week, and usually you'll have it, just for the sheer shame factor. So that's always a good one. And tip 4A, if you're not in a critique group or want to join one, take a class. I took this class by the Seattle graphic novelist David Lasky, and he was just a one-day little workshop. And he had us draw just straight on paper with Sharpies a scene and then watercolor it. And he just said, okay, I want some very big character in the front and something small in the back. And that was it. And I was thinking about Derek and how afraid he was to turn in his, to submit to the newspaper, because they had this girl who was really a good artist. And I thought, what's the worst that can happen? So I did that in watercolor, and I really liked it. And it made it into the book. And I hadn't even thought about doing watercolor for the book. So yay. And that's my my mail carrier. She came in one day. She was, this is pre-COVID. So she had to use our bathroom. I said, okay, you can use our bathroom, but I get to take a picture of you from behind, because that's the really hardest angle ever. Okay. So obviously you can tell here, my big theme here, my thesis, deadline. Last minute panic, that's me. In fact, I usually push till the very end, and then I have an excuse to just go crazy and go nuts because, well, I only have 10 minutes or an hour or a week or whatever. But last minute panic does it for me. Stop share. Okay. Couple other things. Give yourself a break. You know, this is a time to give everybody grace. So start with yourself. Why not? Why not? Everyone needs some grace. Don't censor yourself. I think you've heard that a bunch of times. Don't censor yourself. We have the worst critics in our head, and you want to just get, as you said, you want to sneak around your critic and don't listen to him. Keep the bar low, and then have fun. And that's the big thing. Have fun. Remember, especially us, we do kids stuff. So if it's not fun, it's not worth doing. Something I thought about just tonight. Get a pet. I think everybody should get a pet. You know, they make you take breaks. You have to walk the dog. You have to think about things. You get inspiration. Obviously, I get inspiration from my dogs. My new dog is also in the books. And I just want to let you know that, oh, you saw pictures of it. Yes, I do wear bunny slippers. So if you wear bunny slippers, you will feel more creative. You will. So, and sometimes it's the underwear too. You got to, you got creative underwear. Wear those. So the last thing I want everybody to grab a piece of paper. Grab a piece of paper, just crappy paper, and something to draw with. It can be a pencil, it can be a pen, it can be whatever you want, but I want you to grab something. And I'm just going to make a quick little doodle. Okay, there's a quick little doodle. I want everybody to make a doodle like that. Just go ahead and do that. I'm going to give you 5 more seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, now we all get 1 minute, maybe 30 seconds. I don't know. Take that. What can you make out of that doodle? I want you to make a drawing with that doodle. I'm going to use my magic pencil so I have an advantage. Everybody go. Tick, 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 tick. Allie, are you timing us? Good.
You bet. You have 10
All right,
seconds.
everybody, we have 5 seconds left. 3, 4, 5. Okay, pencils down. Everybody hold them up. Everybody. Allie, you got to screenshot this. Right on. Look at all these. Ooh, very cool. You know what I think I actually drew is my friend Saki, the sock puppet. So that's it for me. Everybody have fun, doodle, buy books. Where's my buy books thing? Love to Allie, love to Catherine, love to my COVID creative cohort. And also we lost Larry McMurtry. I know he's not a kid's book guy, but he just died and he's one of my favorite authors. So that's too bad. Okay, but yay, books, yay. Let's not, yay, Allie. Okay, back to you, Allie.
Thank you so much. That was so wonderful. My doodle looks, well, you can't see it because of the background, but it looks really great. So Dana, first of all, thanks for the excuse to buy more pets. And second of all, Dana is raffling an illustration of you and your pet, present or ex. And the winner is Rebecca Van Slyke. So
No, not Rebecca. I mean, yay, Rebecca.
So, you guys will connect in email soon, just the same as everyone else. So, I believe we are.
First, I have to tell you, wait. I've already drawn Rebecca because she's in a track. That's Rebecca right there with the hat. And she's got a tractor, just like her own tractor. Anyway, but I will draw her again. That's okay.
Oh man, that's funny. Well, it worked out. You have lots of practice of it. All right. So I'm looking at the time and I'm just going to hop us right into the Q&A. So our first question is from Kristen, and she's asking Mrs. Truitt first, but I'm going to expand this to everyone. Do you have an estimate for when book 6 of my favorite series, Explorer Academy, will come out? I'm at the edge of my seat, and I'm going to expand this to everyone. What is your next project? What should we look out for from you?
Yes, so the pandemic actually slowed things down a little bit in terms of the publishing schedule. We were putting out a book every 6 months. So Disney and National Geographic slowed that down a little bit. So book six will be out this fall, October 5th. And then book 7, the last in the series, will be out a year later in the fall of 2022.
I do. With Little Bigfoot, my next book will be a fiction, nonfiction hybrid called Nobody Likes Frogs.
Oh, cool.
No pub date on that yet. It's probably 2 years out, honestly.
I'm actually working on a graphic novel with Kokila right now with no published date either, and a picture book with Beach Lane. And everything's a mystery these days.
Yeah.
I've got Dead Max 4 coming out in August. I got my author copies yet. And then the third book of the Family Farm series called Cows on the Move. So I don't know when that's going to come out in the fall.
This fall?
Yep. They're fast.
Wonderful. And then Catherine, I know you just have this beautiful book out just now. So is there anything that we should look at for coming up? Or do you know? Can you talk about it?
Nothing at the moment. I'm trying hard, believe me.
Next question is from an anonymous attendee who is asking if any of you have thought about writing novels about a higher age audience. What is your inspiration that called you all to start writing children's books? And shall we just start going the same order that we went in for the talk? So we'll start with Jing Jing.
Oh, okay. I just love children's books because they speak to me. They're poetry. They're really so sophisticated in this simple package. I love graphic novels too. So I am working on for an older audience in that. And I know everyone here has talked about it. I'm looking back at really vulnerable moments, and it's can be exhausting. Like I just end up wiped some days.
For me, it's because I'm still stuck in middle school pretty much. And I just remember that time in my life where, you're happy one minute, you're sad the next, you have issues with your friends, you have issues with school. And for me, it's just a really great opportunity to go back to that time in my life and share knowledge. And then I just love the readers. I love the fact that, they're so passionate. They love reading, they love writing, and they have so much potential. They're looking ahead to what they can be and what they can do in life. And it's just great to be a part of that. It's just, it takes me back to that time in my life.
For me, I was born into a house with no books. My parents don't read. And when I went to school and met the librarian, and she gave me picture books to take home, I cannot even describe the joy. And let me tell you, to be involved in any way with that level of joy, that makes my life. Yes.
Yeah, I definitely think the library, I went as a kid, oh my gosh, I loved it. And I just be there for hours. I was fortunate. My parents did get me a lot of books, and I drew a lot and I wrote a lot. I think part of the question, are you working on anything for older kids? I am working on a middle grade. I've done a few in the past, though none of them have been purchased, but this one might have a chance. We'll see. But I love middle grade audience because it's so awkward. And I remember those years, it was torture.
I started out with picture books and now I'm doing middle grade. So I'm already going up there.
Yeah.
But I'm too immature to write for adults. Those are my dogs. But yeah, I'm too immature. Although YA might be fun because I hear you get to use dirty words. So, that's a possibility. But for now, I'm going to stick with middle grade and under. Allie?
Well, I love reading books for kids. So, the lines blur.
Yeah.
So let's see. The last question is from Karen. And she's asking, how do you find a deadline group? Do you guys have any advice for that real quick before we say good evening?
I'm looking for a deadline group.
The easiest, I have two ways to go. One is to ask somebody you know who likes to write, but the other one is to go on the Facebook page for SCBWI and let me know if I need to explain. That's a Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators of Western Washington. So look that up, of Western Washington. And there is, first of all, you can go on their Facebook page and just say, I'm looking for a group. The other way is to go onto their website and look for critique group. And there's actually a sort of a critique group finder kind of section. So do that. And don't wait. And it doesn't have to be perfect. The first group might be horrible, but it's a start, right? Well, it won't be horrible. No, it won't be horrible. They're full of great people.
And we have gone above and beyond, folks. So an anonymous attendee says, can you tell these authors that I truly enjoyed their company? And I think that is the case for all of us. Thank you all so much for being here and for sharing all of these great resources for getting through these last crazy, strange many months, for the spectrum of experiences that people are going through right now. So thank you. Everyone in the audience, thanks for being here. Thanks for turning up. As always, we hope to see you again soon. Of course, follow those links, go buy some books. If you are local, come on in. Let us know how you felt about the event. And I think this is where I bid you all.
One more thing.
Hit me.
If you want a personalized book plate, forget it. No, just somehow get hold of me and I'll email you one, but you have to glue it in your own book. So we'll figure that out.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right. And with that, I bid you all adieu. Thank you.
Thank
Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.